All right, all right. Welcome back to Partners in Progress, the podcast about Asheboro, North Carolina. The business is here, the community here. We're here talking with Jacob Lewis. He's our guest today. And also Ken Shibata is going to be our co-host. And I am Scott Eggleston. We're going to start out and let Jacob introduce himself. Tell us a little bit about you, Jacob.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So I own 3 different businesses in Asheboro because I'm crazy like that. A couple of them relate, and then one of them is totally out of left field. So I own Octave Marketing Agency, which is over on Cox Street. And I also own a digital billboard company, which has a couple of digital billboards up in Asheboro. So those two kind of go hand in hand. Some of the same clients, work with Octave, also working with the billboard company. So as far as Octave is concerned, we're the only full service marketing company in Asheboro. There's some other marketing companies, doesn't quite do what we do. We do everything from video to website design, social media, you name it, we probably do it. And then the kind of outlier company that I own, which might be the most interesting, is a company called Prop Vinyls. And most people don't know that Prop Vinyls even exists in Asheboro. But basically what we do is we sell uniforms, flags, props to high school and college marching bands all over the country. And I know that's totally different from the marketing side of things, but I have a background in music education. I teach high school marching band. And so that's where that came from. And most people don't even know it exists here in Asheboro.
Yeah. You've mentioned that to me before about the prop vinyl business. I always found it fascinating. So, and tell people, because, I'm not familiar with marching band and these props, but I mean, you're talking about there's stuff there's laid on the field. I mean, there's just a variety of things. Tell me a little bit about the products on the prop vinyl side.
Yeah. So there's kind of the haves and the have-nots in terms of high school marching band, right? Most of the bands around here, they have their traditional band uniforms. They have some flags for the guard. The guard might wear some uniforms and they go out and perform. They might have a few props. You go all the way up into the national level where they compete on the national level, and these people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on custom band uniforms for all of the wind players, custom guard uniforms, flags for them. They're putting props on the field that might cost $50,000, and we're talking about they might stretch vinyl from end zone to end zone, or they may build something out of metal or whatever, and they're carrying this stuff around in transfer trailer trucks, multiple of them. So
it's like a performing art rather than just music. That's incredible.
Well, it's definitely a performing art for sure.
Yeah.
There are many different levels to it. Texas is probably arguably the biggest area for high school marching band in terms of the scale that they do it on.
Yeah.
Most Texas bands probably have 200, 300 kids in the band. Those kids are paying thousands of dollars to do the activity, and they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. And a lot of them travel to Indiana every year, which has what's called the BOA, or Bands of America, Grand National Championships, and they compete for a national title.
Yeah.
While spending a ton of money to do it.
And Texas apparently has a lot of money, because you see these football stadiums and they look like professional football stadiums, but they're high school.
It's crazy. I mean, they're spending, tens of millions of dollars on a high school football stadium. And then I think about where I went to school at Eastern Randolph, and we may hold, 1,500 people in there, and the bleachers on the away side are falling apart.
Yeah. I heard somebody talking about Texas, and part of the reason they've got that much money is apparently they allocate like across the state. It's not like locally the tax collected is not what just goes to the local school. And usually it's like there's a local portion from the county and then the federal portion that comes in. But apparently like they just spread it around to everybody. So it's, even if you're in a poor area, you're still getting a large amount of money. And so they're able to build these
interesting
giant stadiums.
I mean, I do know that they get a lot more money for the arts from their districts.
Yeah.
In Guilford County, where I teach, the county basically gives us, I think it's like $1,000 for instrument repair, and they buy us new uniforms every 10, or they pay for 2/3 of the uniforms every 10 years. Otherwise, that's all the money we get. Out in Texas, I think those are from their county. They're getting, tens of thousands of dollars every year to support it. Most of them have multiple band directors on staff, and some of them even have full-time guard instructors on staff, and that kind of thing. So it's a whole different world out there.
So did you start your working career as a teacher?
No, well, so I went to school. I started at Western Carolina and was in music education, and then I transferred to UNCG. And then while I was at UNCG, I decided, hey, I'm going to start this marketing company.
Okay.
And, you know, obviously doing a marketing company, you're probably going to make a little bit more money than you do as a teacher. Luckily, even though I've owned these businesses, I've still been able to do what I wanted to do. And so I've still been able to teach band. I taught at Southeast Guilford for about 10 years. And then right now I'm at Grimsley High School in Greensboro.
All right.
And so I still get to dabble in that a little bit, but then also run my businesses. And so kind of the best of both worlds. It just keeps me super busy.
I was going to say, how much time does that take with the
lot.
band? Yeah.
I mean, during marching band season, we rehearse 2 days a week after school, Friday night football games. And we're very lucky at Grimsley that we're a state championship football team. So the last several years, all but one, I think we've gone to the state championships, which makes our season extremely long.
Yeah.
There's a lot of very cold football games. Like, you know, the Friday after Thanksgiving is always a football game. You know, right before Christmas is the state championship. And so it makes for an extremely long season, but we've won a couple state
How
championships.
long does that season run? From August to
Yeah, so we have band camp. Well, drumline camp starts the first week of August.
Yeah.
Band camp is the second week of August, and then
Yeah.
it runs all the way up until about 2 weeks before Christmas. If you go all the way to the state champ.
so almost 4 months?
Yeah, it's a long
Wow.
season.
That's
Do
a
you
lot.
have like a coaching staff? Are there multiple people doing this, or is it you with the whole thing?
No, we do. We have a staff. So the band director that I work with, Jeremy, I've worked with him for probably about 17 or 18 years now. And then we've got a drumline instructor, we've got myself, we've got a guard instructor. And so it takes multiple people to do it. I mean, we march about 110 kids or whatever. So you've got to have multiple eyes on
Gotcha.
that to deal with all the different parts. And we're not even a competitive marching band. So we don't go compete on Saturdays like a lot of others do. We don't spend all the money like all these others do on props and uniforms and all that stuff because we're not competitive. We do every home and away football game. So basically every Friday except for that one bye, we're at a football game.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Hard to make plans during that.
I bet.
You really can't go anywhere on the weekends.
How do you advertise the prop marketing, prop vinyl side of the business?
So the marching band space is very interesting. So it's very niche. I kind of like to say everybody knows everybody. It's a very small community, right? And so the way that I started the company was I needed some props, which are typically made out of vinyl, which is like billboard material. And the companies that were doing it, which are now our competitors, were just expensive. And so we just didn't really have the money to spend on that. So I was like, I've got to find another option to be able to buy these. And so I found an online printer and it was much cheaper. And I was like, well, I'll just print ours through there. So I did that. And then the next year, a couple of band director friends were like, hey, will you do my props? And then the next year, a couple more were, and it just kind of grew out of that. And then I realized that there was a niche for this because in our industry, there are, not that I'm trying to call anybody out, but there are some companies who saw an opportunity in the marching arts and started a company in the marching arts. They have no relation in the marching arts. They've never taught in the marching arts. None of that, right? None of their staff do. And so they just keep jacking prices up. And so it's just getting more and more expensive. And, you know, these kids are already paying a ton. And then you've got some bands who just can't afford it. Like, you know, like several bands in this county, they're smaller. They don't have as many kids, so they just can't afford to do it. So our whole niche was we're going to create a company where we obviously have to make money. We obviously have to turn a profit. We have to pay staff, but we're going to keep our prices low enough to where a band in Randolph County can afford it and a band in Texas can afford it because they're all the kids deserve the same opportunity.
Right.
They're all high school kids. You know, they didn't get to determine whether they were in a band in North Carolina or a band in Texas. Sure. They deserve the same opportunity. So that's our goal as a company. And I think that's how we've grown substantially to where we are today, which is we've grown really rapidly and we've grown to be a very large player in the industry from little old Asheboro, North Carolina, because we've kept that as our focus.
Gotcha. Are you from Asheboro?
Yep. So I grew up here, went to Eastern Randolph, lived here all my life. Most of my family live here. My parents moved to Virginia several years ago because they want to be in the mountains, but they're here all the time. But yeah, lived in Asheboro all my life.
Gotcha. So when you started the marketing company while you were still in college,
Yeah.
what was your first client?
Well, it kind of started as like freelance stuff,
Yeah.
right? People, I taught myself graphic design, really taught it because of church, because that was kind of the time where churches were moving more towards the video screens and, that kind of thing during services. And so I taught myself how to do video and that kind of thing. And so I was just picking up some freelance, whatever. And then I ended up going and working for a marketing company where I met my business partner. And then we decided, I think we can go out and we can do this on our own. And so that's how Octave got started.
Gotcha.
And then a year later, we started Prop Vinyls.
What year was it that you started Octave?
Oh, Lord, you had to ask me that. So we've 8 years in business. So this is 2020, so 2018,
All right.
I think it was. Yeah.
And what's changed in that time period in your business?
Well, a lot. Growing a business is very interesting. Growing just in general. Growing a creative business like we are is interesting because it's really fueled by the talent of the people that you have. We're not just, no offense to any job out there, but we don't just hire a secretary who answers phones and whatever. We need somebody who has the knowledge and the background and the creativity, and they can look at something and problem solve and, come up with what should this design look like and that kind of thing. And so as we've grown, it's becoming increasingly harder to find those people here in Asheboro. I would say probably almost all of my staff do not live in Randolph County. They drive in to work because, younger creatives want to live in bigger cities. So Greensboro, Raleigh, Charlotte, that's kind of where they centralize. And so we pull a lot from High Point or Greensboro for our staff to do that.
How many employees do you have at Octave?
So right now we have 8 full-time employees. We use a couple of freelancers at Octave. And then we've got even more than that at Prop Vinyl.
Yeah.
So we're still a very small company, very, very, boutique, if you want to say. We've, everybody kind of has to wear few different hats. Jeff, who's my general manager, he basically runs the space. He takes the trash out on trash day. We talk about that all the time. We're like, we're not some big corporation. We've got a small team, and so everybody wears multiple hats to make it happen.
And in terms of your service, you're talking about your full service, and a lot of the companies around here are not. I know years ago I had walked into your office and it smelled like food, and and you had all these little booths set up for photo and video things, and basically, apparently you're working on a menu for a restaurant, and it was really impressive because I mean, a menu is that's a lot there, all the pictures and the descriptions and the layout, and so you do stuff, very complicated things. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we do a bunch of different stuff. That when you walked in, we were actually working for a company that owned, at that point in time, I think 3 different restaurant brands. Now I think they own 5. Oh, wow. And they had basically asked us to photograph all of their menu items so that they have it to use in marketing materials, and they can put it on their menu, and they can put it on their website. So we developed the website for them. But that was, you're talking about 3 brands, you're talking about hundreds of items. So we literally, set up a whole photo studio, and we would go back and forth between the restaurants getting the food, and then you wouldn't believe the stuff that we do to the food. Like, you would not want to eat it after the fact when you're doing food photography. I mean,
glue and all sorts of things.
Glue and glycerin and toothpicks all over the place. I mean, it's nasty, but the photos end up turning out looking good, right? So that's kind of like when you see the Big Mac from McDonald's, and then when you actually get it from McDonald's, you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't look like the commercial
burger that I'm getting.
right.
Almost like false advertising.
Almost like false advertising. Well, McDonald's has actually been sued over that.
Really?
Yeah, they've been sued over it. And what's very interesting, not to deviate from it, but Scott and I, before we started this, we were talking about AI. AI now, there's been a lot of lawsuits filed because people are using AI to make their marketing materials, restaurants specifically, but they're not using the real food in it. And when you do AI, it's obviously not real. And so it's not going to look anything like what they're actually doing. And so there's several lawsuits out there about that. Probably people just looking for to get some easy money.
Yeah.
But So I know before we started this, you and I were talking about AI, and I've cautioned people about using AI in their marketing because it's a great tool to use, but there's a lot of lawsuits going on right now based on people showing things that doesn't look like their product. So, for example, the other day, there's a company a restaurant that I know the owner of, and they put an AI image out there of their bacon biscuit that had like 8 pieces of bacon on it. And I know they're not putting 8 pieces of bacon on their biscuit. There's maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And so I texted them and I was like, you should probably take this down or people are going to be expecting 8 pieces of bacon on this biscuit. And you could be sued over it. Chances are small, but you could be. And so that's the fine line that people have to weigh. We've got these great tools now, but are we doing false advertising?
Yeah. It's interesting because traveling around, I'll see there's like a certain format, and I can't describe it, but it's like a format for a poster, and I've seen it now like probably a dozen times, and it's just somewhere at some point some AI.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the same poster.
It's got like a weird frame around
Yeah.
it.
It looks like AI. Like you can just tell that it's AI.
Yeah.
And it's typically you can tell it because like most people aren't designing that way because it's actually beyond what graphic designers can actually do without spending an enormous amount of time trying to match it.
Well, and that's what our conversation before we started is. You were mentioning with the graphic design side of things, it's a challenge because clients can go on there and design something, but then when they give it to you to actually produce it, you can't produce it the exact same way. And I assume it's because of the details and the form and the certain types of formats that you have to use.
They tend to be PNGs or JPEGs and not, editable vector files or whatever the case is.
Correct, and they're not high quality enough yet.
And they're usually like less than 1,000 by 1,000 because of the way that AI has to compress it.
So specifically in the prop vinyls business, we've seen an explosion this year, and we've been in business for 7 years. We've seen an explosion this year of band directors or guard directors sending us costumes, band uniforms, flags that they went to AI and basically said, here's our show theme. Here's what we're looking for. We're doing a show about Vikings. We want, a uniform that looks like a Viking outfit, right? And so they send us that AI rendering, and then they go, I want it to look like this. Well, our graphic designers then have to go actually create a printable file that we can actually print on the clothes.
Do they have to remake it?
Yeah, they have to remake it. We do
entire thing, right?
All of our stuff is digitally printed or dye sublimated.
Yeah.
And so the graphic designers have to go and recreate that artwork so that the printer can actually print it, right? Yeah. And it's got to be a high quality vector print ready file. And AI is not there yet. It's not spitting that out.
For people that don't know what a vector file is, because I know what it is because I deal with this all the time because I'm the social media manager here. But if you could explain what a vector file is compared to like a poorly created PNG or JPEG.
Sure. So a vector file is essentially, in layman's terms, a file that can be stretched or made as small as you want it to be without any loss of quality. Mm-hmm. So they can make it, 100 feet by 100 feet, and it's still going to be crisp, and there's not going to be any pixelation in it. And that's typically the file that almost every type of printing industry company will want. Because it makes their job a lot easier to do. Yep. The problem that we're running into is clients are saying, this is exactly what I want. And our graphic designers, I'm not even sure if they spent 20 hours on it would be able to replicate it because AI generates all this stuff. They have to have some kind of source material to work with. They have to go out to a site like Shutterstock that has stock images and pull from it and then start manipulating that to get the look. Mm-hmm. And so I would say, we work with probably around 900 ensembles every year across the country. Wow. I would say this fall alone, probably 85% of those sent an AI design and said, this is what I want, go make it. Yep. And what it has done is made all of our graphic designers' time per project be extended. Wow. And so now we're trying to wade through that and figure out, okay, how do we still make this happen? Because in our business, we run 2 seasons. Yeah. We run the fall season, which is marching band, and we run the winter season, which is everybody basically from the marching band world performs indoors inside of gyms. And so there's a winter guard, there's an indoor drum line, there's a winter winds unit. And so they all get split up and they all do their own shows, right? And so basically in about a 3.5 to 4 month span, we have to get all of these products out the door for each season. Gotcha. And so when you're talking about, we'll probably end up selling 25,000 pieces of uniforms just for this fall season. And we have to get all of that out the door within about 3.5 months. Yeah. And so, and that includes design time and the client paying for it and invoicing and, actually producing it and shipping, which we all know right now, shipping is crazy,
But
so
does that mean that for 3 or 4 months out of the year, you guys are slam packed, and then the rest of the year it's a little slower?
So it used to mean that when we first started and we weren't doing nearly as much business as we're doing now, it definitely went like this. We had some lulls where, obviously I'm still paying staff, but I'm like, you may only have to work 2 hours that day because we just don't have a lot going on. Now, because we've grown the business so much and we work with larger ensembles who have multiple staff and they're thinking way ahead about the show that they want to do, there's very, very little downtime. We do have some lulls around April. April is kind of dead for us, and it picks back up in May to come around for fall, and then we get a little bit slower in October, and then it picks back up in November for the winter. So really April and October are a little bit slower, and that's when I tell the staff at Prop Vinyl, like, this is when you're going to take vacations, like,
Yeah.
go for a week. We've got plenty of time. Don't have much you got going on right now. But otherwise, we're pretty busy and slammed, especially right now. Like right now is the busy time.
And so the stuff these schools are using, they just use it like one season and then they get new stuff.
So they use it one season, and then there are countless Facebook groups that resell this stuff.
Yeah.
And so what's actually nice about it is, a band like in Texas, or there's very large bands in Indiana, they may go spend that hundreds of thousands of dollars on these props and custom uniforms for that one season and flags. Then they put it in these sale groups, and then bands like in South Carolina, North Carolina that are much smaller can afford them because they may be half the cost or even 30% of what they would normally pay. And so now they get this custom stuff that's just used for a season. And so a lot of times this stuff will go through 3 or 4 different seasons, different bands using it, doing that same show concept. Which is kind of nice that we do that in the industry because not everybody can afford the nice, bright, shiny new.
Sure. Absolutely. That's another business for you. You could set up a resale marketplace.
I'm good. I got enough.
Too much on the plate.
I got enough.
That's good. So the billboard, the digital signs, tell me a little bit about that business.
So I guess probably like with any business, it kind of just fell in our lap a little bit. We obviously, from a marketing standpoint, we have clients that go on billboards, right? And so it kind of fits hand in hand with what we do there. It's an easy upsell to, okay, you're a marketing client with Octave. We can also put you on the billboards and we can do the ads for you and we can do all that stuff. So my brother and I actually own the business with a couple of other guys, one of which already had some billboards up around Asheboro. What's interesting about the city of Asheboro is they do not want billboards. The city council has basically said, no, absolutely not. We don't want any. So they've made it very, very difficult to be able to put up any new billboards. So basically what you see in Asheboro is what you get, unless they ever change that ordinance, which I would be very surprised if they do. So we put up our first billboard on the Honeycutt building, which is right beside Remax on Fayetteville Street. And that was going great. And then there was a complaint to the city council that it was too bright at night, somebody driving by. Okay. So then the city council, their next meeting, they decided, okay, well, we're just going to outlaw these things then. And so basically they made the ordinance, and I may get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's right. You have to have 1,000 feet of road frontage for a industrial property, which basically doesn't exist in the city limits. There is no property that has that, right? And so that's how they basically say we're not putting any up without just outlawing them completely. So luckily, before we put up our second billboard, which is on what used to be the CrossFit Asheboro building in Asheboro, right across from KFC on Dixie Drive, we had just got our permit to put that one up, and it was signed off on like 2 weeks before the city council enacted this new thing. So we were literally the last people in Asheboro to get a permit to put up a billboard.
Are billboards effective, may I ask, in this day and age?
They are effective. So, there's 2 different thoughts, right? So there's the traditional billboard that you have to get vinyl printed on, and then they have to go out and put it up. And typically you leave those up for months at a time because the vinyl is very expensive. Getting it installed is expensive. And then you're obviously paying for the billboard, which can be thousands of dollars a month. On the flip side of that, there's the digital side of things, right? So you can put up as many ads as you want. You can change them out whenever you want. And the only downside is that they get in a rotation with the other advertisers, right? But the best thing about it is that you can put up as many as you want, and you can change it out whenever you want. So you could literally have a sale this weekend, have a sale next weekend, and change your ad out in between those. And so, it's a good way, a very effective way to get it out there, because what are you doing when you're riding in a car?
Just staring out.
You're just staring out, right? So everybody looks at it,
I guess
right?
so, yeah.
In fact, the way that the DOT looks at traffic counts is they assume, like if we're looking at impressions for a billboard, they assume that there's 2 pairs of eyeballs in every car. Now, obviously, there's not. People are single driving in the car.
Like on average, right?
It's an average.
Yeah, because
right?
sometimes there's 4 people in the car.
Exactly. It was definitely an average. So that's kind of how we figure out how many impressions. And obviously, Dixie Drive gets more impressions than Fayetteville Street.
Do you have a number? Are you allowed to tell us that number?
What
of
number?
the one on Dixie? Because I know a lot of people drive through
many
Dixie.
it
Yeah.
is?
What was the impression?
It's on our website. I don't even remember.
Okay.
But it's
a
well
lot.
it's well into the hundreds of thousands.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the traffic count that goes by there, you got to think about it's a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at it for the whole month. So you're talking about 30 days,
I
essentially, times 2 of every car that goes by. Yeah, it's well into the hundreds.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was that effective. That's interesting.
How long are the ads? How long do they appear?
So they stay up for 8 seconds,
Gotcha.
and then which is actually a DOT regulation. So you can't go less than that, simply because they don't want flashing lights.
Distracting. Yeah.
Strobing effect. Somebody could have a seizure, that kind of thing. So, and you also, interestingly enough, it's illegal to put video, like moving video on those.
Okay.
So like if you go into Times Square in New York, you'll see video like crazy. But here on a highway, you can't
Is
do
that
it.
this distraction thing?
I think it's a distraction thing. I think it's the flashing lights with some people are having seizures from strobes and, that kind of thing. It's probably smart, honestly.
Yeah.
You obviously are not going to get any audio from it anyway. So it would only be visual if you're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking with the creative side of things in the AI. So I guess like before you had all these people generating their own images and then sending them to you, usually I guess it would just be a conversation like we're thinking about this theme, and then your folks would be able to start from scratch and pull the stuff together. But now that they're operating under this is what we want, now they've got it's a little bit more difficult to try to find everything that matches exactly what the client wants. So that's where the additional time comes in.
Yeah. So we still have some clients that come to us and basically go, I'm doing a theme about Vikings. And so I want, I want my uniform top to look like a Viking uniform, right?
Yeah.
And then we go to work and we figure it out. But then we have a lot of people sending us the AI stuff, and where the time consuming part is, it's really twofold. It is trying to go out and find the assets to be able to make that, like pull in all these different pictures and then start manipulating them to make it all work together. But it's also trying to make it match exactly like the AI, which again, sometimes is impossible because AI will do these funky, crazy things that a graphic designer just can't do. Or AI will make things to where it's kind of indescribable. Like you know the detail is there, but you can't really tell what the detail is.
Yeah.
If you get an AI image and you zoom in, some things are just like from far away, you can tell that's a button, but when you get really close, is it a gold button? Is it a round button? Is it square? What actually is it? And so then you're spending time trying to figure that out, trying to make it match. And it's, it'll be interesting to see where we're at in 5 years. It's very possible.
Is that a troubling thing? I was going to ask, like, is that something that you're worried about? Like maybe it might impact like graphic designing as a job as a whole.
I think
as it gets better, obviously. Right now, it's not at a point where it's like it's going to replace anything,
Right.
obviously. But like it's only been 3 or 4 years, so give it another 5.
I actually think I feel differently about it between the two companies. So on the Octave side of things, we've already started to see AI impact us and people who use us for certain things. We had a client who their contract was up with us, and we were talking about renewal, and they decided instead of going with us that they were just going to start using AI to push out all their social media content.
Gotcha.
Does it look the greatest? No. Does it always say what it's supposed to? Inherently there's challenges with it and that kind of thing. But they were like, we think we can do this on our own. So we lost a client over that. So do I think it's going to affect that side of the business? I think at some point it's going to.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to eliminate it. I don't think it's going to eliminate the need for graphic designers. There's always going to be companies that aren't going to want to sit down and do AI themselves, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not concerned about it making us obsolete, but I do think it's going to affect the business. On the prop vinyl side of things, luckily, because we print everything, unless AI just gets crazy, ridiculous, which would probably take at least 10, 15 more years, I don't think it's ever going to be able to spit out a print ready file that is needed for these machines to actually print it.
Yeah.
And so you're always going to have the graphic designers, that needs to be involved.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to affect things differently. I do think it's going to affect, but I mean, I have a feeling that generations before us, when new technology came out, I'm sure when the internet came out, everybody was like, "Oh, this is going to kill jobs, and it's going to, it's
Almost like fear mongering a little bit.
A little bit, yeah, because of the unknown." I read a post on Facebook the other day. It was a mom talking about she's got a freshman in college, and the freshman is using using AI to write all of her papers and to do her work or whatever. And so she's worried about, one, is she even learning anything in college, and two, then when she gets out of college, is she going to have the skills necessary to be able to get the job? And then will the jobs exist? Because AI seems to be taking away all the entry level jobs that these college graduates are what they're needing to get their foot in the door.
Yeah.
So I do think there's some legit concerns, but I'm not sure it's to the level that people are maybe making it out to be. I don't think it's going to completely eliminate jobs. I mean, I think back to the Ford plant when they introduced robots in the plant. I remember everybody going, "Well, this is just going to eliminate jobs." Well, Ford still employs hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Just in a different way now.
Yeah. Yeah. You're optimistic there'll be.
Is that something you also want to start, not you, but the industry as a whole, you think would start implementing as graphic designers, as not as a tool to do your job for you, but to help as inspiration?
I think there's definitely a time and the place for AI. I don't necessarily think all AI is bad. I think there's some challenges with it. Obviously, the stuff that I've heard about the data centers and how the resources that they use and what they put back out in the environment, all of that's not good, obviously, right? But I do think that it is another tool that we can use to help people do their jobs better and more efficiently. So just to get some inspiration, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. As long as we're not eliminating the jobs and that kind of thing. I mean, I think it's very similar to, when Word came out and now they put the red squiggly line because you misspelled a word, or they put the green line because it thinks there's a grammatical error, right? I mean, that's great. It's not writing for you. It's just telling you this could be better.
Yeah.
And it's helping that person along. I think AI is very similar to that. We'll see where it goes in the future.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it could turn into, the Jetsons where nobody has a job and everybody's just flying around all day because everything's been done for. I don't know.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't think it's the big bad wolf that maybe everybody's thinking it is currently.
Yeah. So for small business owners that are wanting to increase their business and do marketing, what are your suggestions? What things, because, there's some of the SEO on the websites and there's all these jargon and terms. Somebody that has a limited budget, that wants to expand their reach, what things do you recommend?
Well, so it's vastly different for everybody, right? You own a law firm. How I market your law firm versus how I market the, burger joint down the road,
Right.
It's probably going to be two totally different ways, right?
Sure.
It's going to be two totally different audiences. So what we typically do at Octave, and you've been through this because we've done your marketing, is we sit down and the first thing we do is we get the team together and we go, okay, if money were no object, how would we market this business? What would be the marketing plan, right? And then once we lay all that out, then we go, okay, money is an object and we all don't have unlimited resources. So now what can we do that's the most effective within the budget that the company has to work with?
Gotcha.
And so for different companies, it might be different things. Google search ads are very important right now. If somebody is searching for your type of business, if you're not coming up at the top, they're not scrolling down to the bottom to find you,
Yeah.
right? So that might be one thing. You might have a business that is very heavily driven by social media. Let's say that you're a boutique and you sell shirts and bags and that kind of thing, and your following is really on social media. So what kind of things on social media are you doing to get out there? Are you running contests on social media? Are you doing things to get people to like your page? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It really runs the gamut. And then, you look at, what's your website doing? I always tell people your website is your number one seller. Why? Because it's on 24/7.
Yeah.
At 2 a.m. when people are doom scrolling and they see something about you and they're like, oh, I like that car. I'm going to go check it out. What do you do before you go to a car lot nowadays?
Go look 'em up.
You go online. You look at the car. You probably look at more information about the car. You may even put it in AI to get all the information, like we were just talking about, right?
Yeah.
So when you step on that car lot, gone are the days of, hey, I'm looking for a reliable family car. You know, show me what you got. Let me take some test drives. No, you go to that car lot now and you're like, I want the red convertible. It's that one right there. I want to take a test drive.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Absolutely.
just totally different game than what we used to be in. So it really widely varies per type of business that they're in.
Yeah.
But, you know, I always tell everybody, if you're doing zero marketing and you own a business that relies on customers, whether that's a service-based business or you're selling a product or whatever, and you're doing nothing, then it's basically like having a brick and mortar, but keeping the door locked.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I mean, the big things, websites, social media, the billboards or, you know, the actual big billboards or small digital signs. And those tend to be, for me, this like brand awareness, like just having your name out there, people seeing it multiple times so they recognize it the next time they see an ad on Facebook. I always tell,
it really depends.
Yeah.
Depends on the type of business, right?
Yeah,
if you're running a special,
Yeah.
then it's actually a way to tell people, hey, we're having the sale right now. You need to come in. And
that's what I always say for like my business. Like, I'm not having a mattress sale on Saturday.
No,
So like
yours is definitely brand aware. You know, we try to put you on some billboards as the face of the company, right? Yours is 100% brand awareness. Yours is here's the services that I offer. Here's why we're the best at it. And when you need us, you'll remember us because you've seen our ads multiple times. We call it repeated messaging.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people come to us and they go, you know, we do TV commercials for people as well. So they go, I want to run a TV commercial, but I want it to be about X. But then I want my billboards to be about Y, and what we're putting on social media is going to be about A.
Yeah.
And we go, whoa, hang on a second. Like, let's think this through. Let's have some repeated messaging. Let's make them all cohesive. So what they see on TV and on the billboard and on social media is all telling them the same thing. So if Joe Schmo happens to see you on TV and then is driving down Interstate 40 and sees your billboard, and then later that night they're scrolling on Facebook and they see what you've got, they've seen it now 3 times.
Yeah.
And so they're more likely to remember you because of that. And then we'll switch up what we're saying next month and do something different.
I was curious, has there been any like surprise successes, you know, where you've done something and just been kind of blown away at how well it's performed?
That's a good question. Wow, I've never thought about that. I mean, there's for the Octave side of things, there's definitely been some campaigns that we've done that have been really cool. We do the marketing for Randolph Health, which is the hospital here.
Yeah.
And so we do several TV commercials for them every year, amongst some other marketing initiatives. And the first set of TV commercials we did, one of them actually won a national award for the TV commercial. Yeah, and we actually featured everybody in it was a staff member there. The main guy was the ER head of the ER department, and he's been there for, I don't know, 25 years or something. And his son is also a paramedic in Randolph County. So the whole commercial kind of centered around that and the family atmosphere. And so that won an award, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
To do that. On the prop final side of things, really it's just been the growth of the business.
Yeah.
So the marching arts as a whole is a pretty traditionalist, like standard industry, right? And so all of our competitors are at least double, if not more, older than we are.
Gotcha.
We're like the new guy to the industry, even though we've been 7 years in business now. And so a lot of times these band directors who've been teaching forever, they've been using the same company for years, and it's so hard to get them to switch over.
Yeah.
But somehow we've managed to make that happen. And I think it's because, you know, we actually are in the marching arts. We understand what they're going through. You know, we're not afraid to, if we make a mistake, to make it right for people. You know, we do have the best prices in the game, you know, all of that stuff, which I think has propelled us to grow like we have. And we've just seen explosive growth. I mean, this year alone, we've already matched what we did last fall with 3 months left to go in this fall season.
Nice.
So every year we're growing 100%, 150% year over year.
And it sounds like there's still a lot of potential there.
Still a lot of potential. I mean, there's only about maybe like 6 companies that do what we do that we're competing with.
Gotcha.
In the entire country. And so when you think about it and you think about how many high schools there are in the country, and then how many colleges there are and how many independent groups there are, you know, they all have to use one of the 6 essentially. And so there's definitely opportunity there.
And do you guys come in at a lower price point than the big companies, or is it like competitive pricing rather than severely undercutting?
Our whole shtick since I started this was I wanted to be less expensive than everybody else. That's kind of the whole thing. I have a passion for education, for music education. I want students to have what everybody else gets to have and that kind of thing. And so our whole thing coming into this was we are going to have the highest quality products. I'll put our products up against any of the others, even the most expensive ones. I think they're just as good a quality, but we're going to have the best price on them. And so oftentimes, like with a band top, for example, which is a shirt that goes on over their uniform, which is typically designed to whatever show theme they're doing, we might be at $50 and others might be at 65 or 70. Well, you take that $15 and $20 times every kid in your band, and you're talking about thousands of dollars potentially that is saved by using us over them.
Absolutely.
So now that $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 can go to buy a new French horn, buy new music for the kids, to bring in instructors, to any number of things besides just buying a band top that they're going to use for one season and then get rid of.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been our whole thing. And so we've stuck to that. So you won't find us have a higher price than anybody else in the industry. There's one company that I lovingly call the Dollar General of our industry, and sometimes their prices dip below ours, but their quality is pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad, and they have customer service issues all the time and that kind of things.
Yeah. So, being a longtime resident of Asheboro, and the changes that have gone on with this town, we've talked about it before. I know I came here in 2007, right before alcohol was legalized, and the downtown completely changed. What are your thoughts about Asheboro and about the future of Asheboro?
I think the biggest change that Asheboro has had has been the downtown.
Yeah.
Because I remember when downtown was nothing. You didn't come downtown, there wasn't bars or restaurants or whatever, and now it's buzzing. So I think Asheboro has done a great job with building up the downtown. I also remember when Lowe's was on Fayetteville Street. This might have been before your time.
Yeah.
Do you remember? So the Public Works building on Fayetteville Street, that used to be a Lowe's Hardware.
Interesting.
Because it wasn't on Dixie Drive. Dixie Drive wasn't the main thing in Asheboro.
A Lowe's Hardware?
That was a
on
Lowe's
Fayetteville?
Hardware.
North Fayetteville was a bunch of business. I didn't realize that.
When was this?
Long time
The
ago.
90s?
I was probably in elementary school, maybe.
Yeah.
It was before Lowe's moved over, before Walmart was built over there on Dixie Drive and all of that. Fayetteville Street was the thing. I know, not me, I wasn't old enough for it, but my siblings who are a little older than me, they used to drive up and down Fayetteville Street on Fridays. That was the thing to do. You would just drive back. I know you don't understand this because you're 18 and y'all don't do stuff like that anymore. But for entertainment, because this was before Netflix and all of that and video games because video games were around, but not like they are today. The popular thing to do was hang out at car washes or drive up and down streets, and then you'd stop and talk to your people every once in a while, and then you'd go drive again and
Pull into a parking lot and everybody get out and chat.
That was the thing. That was the thing. I know you probably don't understand that world, but that used to be what's fun. Listen, when I was growing up, it was the roller skating rink, which is now Journey Church.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was a roller skating rink. Yeah. If you go into Journey, the floor is still the roller skating floor, the hardwood floor, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that used to be it used to be, it's called Rollabout.
That's
Roll
right.
about.
That's
and we
right.
used to go there every Friday and Saturday. And I'm talking, I was in elementary school, upper elementary school or lower middle school. They would have lock-ins, y'all.
Is
We
that
would
why
go there.
it's an odd-shaped building for a church?
Exactly.
That's why.
We would literally go stay overnight. You're not doing that nowadays.
No.
Parents aren't going to drop their kids off at a roller skating rink and let them lock your kids inside and let them stay overnight. That just doesn't happen anymore. But that's
No.
what we used to do back in the day, and that was how we spent our.
Wow.
So Asheboro's changed dramatically, over the time. I think, obviously with Toyota coming in, everybody thought there was going to be this huge boom, and I think there has been to a certain extent, and it's probably still coming. I know they haven't hired everybody yet.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the only reason we have a Starbucks and a Chipotle now.
Yep. Yeah.
Otherwise, we've been talking about getting a Starbucks for years and years and years here, and it never happened. But when Toyota come in, all of a sudden we got a Starbucks.
Yeah.
So I do think it's going to continue to grow. And I hope along with that, the zoo continues to grow.
Yeah.
I know they just opened up the new part finally because the state passed the budget.
Yeah,
Was it open now?
It is,
Asia?
I think it just opened. Yeah.
Oh wow.
'Cause
Asia
I know
side.
we
'Cause
were
they've
having,
been,
we had this
like-
conversation.
Yeah,
where it was like
yeah.
the
Oh,
yeah,
state
it's
budget
been-
hadn't
because
been
they were
passed.
like all ready to go, but they didn't have the funding to hire the
Right.
staff.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they just opened because the state passed the budget.
Yeah.
So I think they just opened it, and I think their goal is to get all continents, right?
Yeah.
And then at one point they talked about some kind of amusement park coming in there. So I think
We
there's
need a
endless
conference.
opportunities.
We need a conference center.
We need
If we
several
had a
things.
big conference center, and then because we're right in the middle of Raleigh and Charlotte,
yeah.
in the middle of the state, I mean, I think it'd be huge.
I think the problem with that is we don't have enough hotels.
Well, that's what
Well,
the
we need
conference
more
center with a
hotels.
hotel.
Oh,
yeah, like
with
a
them,
whole,
yeah.
the whole.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the
development.
Sportsplex, we were pretty involved with the Sportsplex because we did all the branding out there
Yeah.
for it.
And what a great thing! I mean, that's
Oh,
fantastic.
It's been amazing
Is that
for
owned
the
by?
community.
It's publicly
city
owned
and
by
owned
the
by the
city.
city,
Okay,
you know,
I thought so.
soon after it opened, my kids, have a bunch of friends in Greensboro, and they were like, their lacrosse teams were coming down to
Oh, yeah.
Asheboro to practice. So I mean, it's getting used a lot.
Oh yeah, it's a great facility. I mean, you look around, and I'm not sure there's very many other that compare. Maybe in like Raleigh, like Wake
Yeah.
Med Park or something. But it's for it to be in Asheboro, it's pretty amazing. I think the issue that Asheboro has though is when you bring in these big tournaments, like they're doing pretty consistently,
Yeah.
where you've got 1,000 players out there plus all their family. Where are they staying?
Yeah.
They're not staying in Asheboro because all the hotels are already booked. Several of them are already booked with Toyota employees.
Yeah.
That are training or
Temporary,
whatever.
yeah.
So they're having to go further away. I mean, I know of people who have stayed in High Point and Greensboro and are driving to it, which is not the end of the world. It's only like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But
But if-
ideally, you get them to stay in
Yeah, we
Asheboro.
want to spend that money
They're
here.
spending a lot more money in Asheboro, right?
yeah.
And I also, and don't quote me on this because I may be getting it wrong, but I did hear from the heart of North Carolina that Airbnb bookings in Randolph County are like at a 95% occupancy rate.
Wow.
Right now.
So, like just year round.
Oh, in general.
Unless I'm getting that wrong,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she told me that
I
it
mean,
was
that
a very,
that
very
wouldn't be
high
that
occupancy
surprising.
rate.
That's
We don't-
huge.
And I think several of it is they're coming for the zoo, they're coming for the sportsplex. There's the UR National Forest is here.
Yeah.
You're right in the middle of the state, so it's if you're going from maybe Boone to Raleigh, right in the middle of your drive, you stay here, you continue on.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think Asheboro is going to continue to grow,
Yeah.
and it will change, and we're going to have to adapt. And I think that's one thing that we're going to probably have to get better at as a city. And I'm probably going to call somebody out here, but I'm not meaning to do it maliciously. But sometimes I do feel like with the generation that we have on the city council, we need some younger people in there that can bring fresh new ideas to the table and that are going to be the ones living here still in 20 or 30 or 40 years. And what do they want to see the city look like?
Yeah.
And right now, I feel like the demographic on our city council is pretty, up there in age.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to see. I'm not one. I got too much on my plate already. But somebody like a Scott Eggleston could get on city council.
No, thank you.
A little busy for that.
But I do think some younger people it's always good to have their voice in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a young man, Cam Mills, that was he just joined the city council. So hopefully, and he's probably in his 20s. He's really young.
Oh, great.
So hopefully,
Good.
yeah,
That's
you're
what
right
we
though.
need.
That and that the new city manager, I think he's got decades of experience and bringing a different perspective. I think is really helpful.
Yeah, I've heard some great things about him, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping he's bringing some new ideas to the table, and that kind of thing. I think the worst thing that really any entity can do, a business or a city or an organization, is when you get stuck in your ways and you don't adapt.
Yeah.
And typically that happens when you have the same people in power for a long period of time, and they get very comfortable
Complacent.
and complacent.
Yeah.
So, you always kind of need that new blood just to spark new ideas. I think it's always great on something like the city council to have older generations and younger generations and people right in the middle. If it leans more towards either way, I think there's trouble. You really need to span, because we have citizens here that are of all ages. And I hear it all the time, like we need more stuff for kids to do. Well, somebody who's probably 65 may not be thinking about that. They don't have teenagers anymore.
Yeah.
But Cam, who is going to be having kids, in the near future, probably will be thinking about that kind of
That's
thing.
when I went down to the sportsplex. My son was playing middle school soccer, and we went down there. It was like middle of the week, in the afternoon, and it was packed. People at the playground, on all the fields were full, the soccer fields, and that's just a great thing. And it gives a great opportunity for kids to get outside and families, and have. Because it's got tons of soccer fields and football field, and the exercise equipment, and it's really impressive.
I think it was a great investment by the city. It was very smart to do that. And if they utilize it the correct way, it can bring a lot of money into the city.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You were mentioning with Starbucks and Chipotle, but it made me think of the mall in Asheboro is really interesting. That new company that bought it years ago, they have really cleaned it up. I mean, it's impressive how nice it is, and even though there's a lot of empty storefronts, they've decorated it in such a way you almost don't even notice.
Right.
And they have these big pictures of local events and the local championship football teams and all that. But the Cinemark movie theater, because we live in Randleman, and we're all about halfway between here and Greensboro.
Right, you can go either or.
Either or.
Yeah.
It's like $5 to $6 cheaper a ticket to come to Asheboro as opposed to Greensboro.
Four Seasons, right?
Yeah.
No, it's so expensive. The
Yeah.
Four Seasons is a nice theater, but it's expensive.
Yeah, and so that's what the last few movies we've saw, we've come down here, and we've actually really enjoyed it more. It's just quieter, calmer.
The mall is very interesting. Like, they've renovated it very well in there.
Yeah.
Everybody says that malls are dying, and they probably are to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But they've done a great job. Like, I remember, I don't know if you went in there before the renovation, but they used to have these like sunk down sections that you could go sit in. It was very, very like 1970s and 80s. Everything was this ugly brown brick color and all of that. So they've done a great job renovating, and they obviously spend a ton of money doing it. And I think it's actually worked, because when I go by there now, there's a ton of cars in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't used to be that way.
It's interesting. I think it's Oak Hollow Mall, or it's in High Point. There's an old mall. It's a smaller one, but they basically turned it into offices, and so they've got like a DMV and all sorts of different businesses in there. And
there's one that High Point University bought a mall and turned it into classroom space.
Oh, really?
That might be the one you're talking about.
I'm not sure.
Is it near High Point campus?
This one's a little farther away.
Okay.
It's all,
they did that with an old mall too.
Westchester. Yeah. And so that's why I was wondering if the mall here was going to do that. They don't seem like they're trying to fill up the space that they've got. They're just making it work with what they have.
I mean, they might be charging really expensive rent prices. I don't know.
Belk is holding it down. I mean,
they really are.
They're very popular apparently. A lot of my clients shop there. They love it.
Yeah.
So anything else? I know we've got a little bit of time left, and is there anything else in on the top of your mind? This is a complete side issue, but I went to the movies and we were watching the Odyssey.
Oh yeah,
and it was.
I still have not watched it.
I haven't seen it.
It was good. I really enjoyed it.
I really want to see it. It's an all-star cast.
Derek and Caleb talked about it yesterday. It sounded really good.
It's interesting because there's so much story to put in there, and so you can tell like the movie was made on the editing floor. I mean, it's just a masterpiece of editing, but there's not a lot of like slow shots because they got to get to the next thing.
Oh,
so,
sure.
Did you know that all of Christopher Nolan's films are made and edited physically? That he cuts the film.
IMAX film, like they used to,
and then in post they'll overlay a proxy with all the effects, and then when they actually do it, they'll digitize that film, but the film cuts themselves are physical. So they'll digitize it.
I think that's cool, but I'm like, why waste all that time with the technology that's available?
I think Christopher Nolan is just super duper like hard set on the traditional this is how film is supposed to be.
Yeah,
I guess.
I don't know. I don't get
I
it.
bet he could cut half his time out with all the digital tools that we have now available.
Yeah. Do they have IMAX digital, or is the film really the only way to capture it?
Film apparently is the only way to capture it.
Yeah.
70 millimeter IMAX film. Each frame, by the way, is like this big.
It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Ridiculous.
Have you seen how loud that machine is? And they built like a whole dome thing to fit over it to keep because like if they're filming a close scene and you're trying to do dialogue, like you can't even hear yourself.
Right.
So there's a matte box around it, so they can't hear it.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Crazy.
It's pretty crazy. But I was in there and I was thinking, for some reason it struck me about AI, and I started and I don't know, something about watching the movie, but I was trying to think. I'm always thinking about like the progression of how is AI going to affect us in the long run, because I really do think it's going to outwork us in all the aspects of work that we do eventually.
But with your business, lawyers are never going to be replaced because you cannot rely on AI to effectively try a case or to, you know what I mean? Like there's so many nuances to the case. There's so many personal details. I can never see. I mean, I'm sure somebody's going to try.
Yeah.
But I can never see AI replacing a lawyer in that sense. So I do think there's some that are AI proof.
Yeah.
You may feel differently. I don't know.
You know, I feel like at some point it will get to the point because I mean, basically what you do is a decision tree, and it's going to be really good at doing decision trees. It just has to have the right modeling and training. I think at some point it'll be better than any attorney that's ever lived.
Maybe, but you're talking about like mistrials
Yeah.
and people
Well,
going, I wasn't effectively
Well, yeah,
represented.
you know,
and-
the question is, will the law change to allow that?
Right.
You know? And,
Well, and when we all know the law is so behind. I mean, I think about drones. Like
Yeah.
we use a drone to shoot a lot of stuff, and you know, we had a drone years before any kind of laws were put in place. Even before now
yeah.
with drones, I don't know if have you ever flown a drone?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so now if you're near an airport, it grounds your drone essentially, right? Or only lets you go up so high. But used to, like when I first bought my first drone, that wasn't even a thing. It was wide open. Yeah. Like, you know, now you're supposed to have a license
Yeah, it's like
for it and all
FAA
this stuff.
licensing. And
Yeah. So, but it took years to get to that point.
do you guys use DJI drones?
We do, yeah.
Like, did you buy them before the ban? Is it still banned?
I
The
haven't
big,
heard.
I think the big ones are, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
you're, yeah.
'cause
You're talking
Pat-
about the really big ones.
Yeah, Pat
Yeah.
has
We use
a
the
mini
Mavic
one.
Pro, which is only
yeah.
Yeah,
a
yay
foot
big.
long or
Yeah.
whatever. But the thing about it is, like, they've come such a long way that we shoot 4K on that
Yeah.
drone.
DJI makes incredible video.
They really do,
yeah.
and I think we paid $1,600 for it, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just the technology. I mean, now the first drone I ever bought, I mean, we paid well over $2,000 for it. You know, everything comes down. It's like TVs. Now you're buying TVs
Yep.
for what, $200, and it's like a 70-inch, 4K TV.
Yeah.
But eventually everything comes down. But the quality you can get out of it and how it flies so easily. And there's so many. I know we're going off on a tangent of
That's all
drones,
right.
but it's what's crazy about it is the technology behind it. It has so many fail safes in it. Like if a bird is coming at it, it will move. You know, if it starts to drop too far, it'll tell. It's got, our drone has it to where we can set it down on the ground to take off, and if we press the home button while it's flying, it will literally come back and land in that exact same spot all by itself.
Gotcha.
And the incredible thing about DJI's drones is that their gimbal technology and their motion tracking and everything, it's so good.
So smooth.
Incredible, yeah.
Yeah, and they've got technology where there's some drones now, like if you're a snowboarder, you can send the drone up, you go snowboarding, and they will follow you.
Yeah.
Automatically getting this like smooth, cool video. Like technology is a crazy thing, and then on the flip side of that is how is our military using drones?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like what are they doing with it and what are they
If
going
we
to do
had
with
this
it?
stuff,
Like if
what could they
ours
have?
is this advanced, I can only imagine what the Department of Defense has with their billions and trillions of dollars that they put into
Because they're always
R&D.
like 10 years ahead of
Right.
civilian
Oh, yeah.
technology,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
So who knows? I mean, is future of warfare literally just robots and drones?
Finding
I would
each
say
other.
probably.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's a Black Mirror episode. I think it's called Black Dog, but it was one of those Boston Dynamics dogs,
Oh,
the
I know what you're talking
four-legged
about,
ones.
yeah.
But in this, and this is not that old. It's not that long ago that it came out, but it's basically hunting down people and killing them.
The Boston.
Yeah,
Wow.
and we're there now. I mean,
Well, I mean,
we're-
the flock cameras in Randolph County has been a big talking point lately, right? Because everybody's like, there's one near my house.
Is there really?
Yep, on Fayetteville Street, there's a flock camera.
There's
and so, people were
two
talking
or
about.
three in Asheboro, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
correct?
and there's two people talking about the invasion of privacy and all that stuff. Then on the flip side of that, it helps them catch people better.
Yeah.
So there's all these
Where's the
different
balance?
talking points on it, but it's going towards technology.
Yeah. Because that's what when I was watching the movie, I was thinking about AI's we're real preliminary stages, and it's going to be a lot of development, and there's going to be a lot of seeking to control that. And I think for a period of time, there's going to be people that do control it. And then I think at some point it's going to start controlling itself. And
like Ultron.
Like
Yeah,
what was that Will Smith movie, iRobot?
Oh,
Yeah.
Like iRobot, where it takes over.
it has its own
So then what
sentience.
you're really saying is the deception of AI now, because we already have some of that, right? Like, I don't know if y'all have experienced this, but when you're scrolling through Facebook, sometimes I question, what am I looking at? Because I'm like, is that an AI video? And typically right now you can tell.
Yeah.
It might be outlandish. Like I
Yeah.
think of one. There's
Well,
one where a
I
guy's
think-
sitting on a toilet and a bear comes through the window, and then a
I
deer
don't
comes
know.
through. Like obviously that's AI.
I think we can tell as like people that are somewhat interested, especially you, owning a marketing agency, you have to be able to tell. I think a lot of average people have a harder time with that.
For sure. And this has been going on forever. I had a
Yeah.
friend who his mother-in-law got scammed out of thousands of dollars on the phone with an Indian guy because he said, I need you to go to these places and buy these gift cards and send them to me. And they put her on the phone with a police officer to tell her this was not legit. Stop doing this. And she still didn't believe the police officer. So there is a population that, whether it's because they don't know or they're gullible or whatever it is, they believe this stuff.
Yeah.
And as AI gets better, it is going to be harder to tell, is that an AI generated not only image, but video?
100%.
And is it correct? And we've all
Have you
seen it.
have you seen the Will Smith eating spaghetti? The benchmark, you know what I'm
haven't
talking
seen
about?
that one.
So when AI first started getting big, there's this like really bad AI generated video of Will Smith eating spaghetti. And it's like kind of forming into his face, and then like it's like over the years it's gotten better, and then now it literally looks like Will Smith is just
right.
eating
And that's
spaghetti.
the scary part about it. I mean, we all know, we see it in politics all the time. You know, they'll take Trump and they'll put him in some crazy situation, and like, is it AI or is it legit? Because it looks pretty dang good, you know, and I think there's some people who will believe it, and whether they're saying something bad about Trump or something good about Trump, you know, people believe this stuff, you know, especially, and a lot of people subscribe to the method of, if I saw it on Facebook, it must be true. Right?
That is the population.
There's a lot of people that think that.
That's true.
You know, and that does concern me a little bit, because, you know, people do things based on what they see and what they think, and a lot of times it's not accurate, and they go crazy doing these crazy things, and it's not true at all.
Maybe that's something we need to teach better as a society of technological literacy.
Well, I think what's going to happen is there's going to have to be safeguards put in place. They're going to have to make some laws. There's going to have to be some kind of law that makes you put, you know how now movies have a PG-13 or an R rating or whatever. There's going to have to, some law is going to have to be put and enacted where this stuff has to be said, this is an AI generated video, or this is an AI image, or the thing that they're doing now. I don't know if you know this or not. If you generate an AI image and then you go upload it to social media, Facebook, Instagram, I think TikTok is doing it as well.
I think I've seen TikTok, when you scroll
labels it.
It labels it as AI info.
Below the description will say this is AI generated, which is
and
pretty
the way
handy.
it's
It
doing
just does that automatically.
Well, the way that they're doing it is the AIs now are putting code embedded into the image, so that when it's uploaded to the social media, it triggers it to say it's AI.
You can also manually do it, but no one does that.
Do it. And the way around it is literally screenshot the image and then upload that instead of the other one, and the code's not there anymore. So there's always ways around everything. But I think there's going to have to be some laws or something put in place, because it's only going to get worse how people can lie and manipulate with no kind of repercussion for it, putting it out there on social media, you know, with just lies, because AI will do it for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the problem with such a powerful tool like that.
Yeah.
Double-edged sword, right?
Going to have to be policed somehow, but you know how policing anything is, like,
It's hazardous.
Yeah.
And you're going to miss stuff too.
You're always going to miss stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be exceptions. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Jacob, I really appreciate you being with us. Ken,
thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
So if anybody wants to find your companies, where can they find you?
So they can, we're on Cox Street in Asheboro. You can stop by the office if you want, right behind David's. Octave-marketing.com. Octave is OCTAVE. It is not Octave. A lot of people like to say it Octave. Octave is actually a musical term. So it's octavemarketing.com, octave-marketing.com. But, you know, if you do have any marketing needs, happy to at least talk to you about it and see if we can help.
All right. And one last question. What instrument did you play?
Trombone is my primary, but as I went through school, I had to learn all of them well enough to be able to teach them. So I can play all of them semi-decently well, not really well at all.
Enough to teach?
But
do you still practice on the trombone?
I do. I play it. So I don't really practice anymore, but I get it out whenever we're like at band camp, or I play in the stands with the kids sometimes, or I fill in at a concert or something like that. So
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And again, this is Partners.
Partners in Progress.
This is Partners in Progress. Thank you. Please like and share. All right. Good.
Awesome.
Thank you, man.
Well, that was pretty painless.
See?
Yeah, that was